Together with a roll call, please. Madam
Mayor
Secretary.
Martini,
Here.
Council members Abbott, Lawson, Smith, Bybee, Deere, City Attorney Adams,
Here.
and City Manager Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Next, we have comments from the public. Does anyone want to speak on comments from the public?
Opening ceremonies. Opening ceremonies.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't have an agenda with me, but I'll be right with you. Okay, next is opening ceremonies. So if everyone would stand, please, we're going to do the invocation from, and I see her out of my left eye coming down the aisle is Madam Barbara from the
Parks Nazarene.
Parks Nazarene Church. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Mayor.
being here.
Thank you. Would you bow your heads with me, please? Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful that we are all here today. We thank you, too, for the dawning of another beautiful spring day. And we pray, Lord, a mighty blessing over our Mayor, Gino, and over this fine council. You know all of the things of business that need to be handled today, and you also know the proclamations that will be given and handed out. We thank you for all of the recipients and for all that they do for this great city that we call home. And Lord, would you please keep us safe and in your care. We thank you that you're going to depart wisdom to Mayor Gino Martini and to his council and enable all of the speakers to speak what's on their mind, that we might have an ear to hear their voices. We thank you for the form of government that you've allowed us to have and this great city that we live in. Hear our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Well, Barb, if we're going to depart all of the things you're telling me about that we're going to depart today to this audience, we better get going with the agenda right away. So if you remain standing, I'd like to have Mr. Smith do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Thank you. If you'll join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody's babysitting me. I should be good. Okay, next we have public comment. Anyone want to speak under public comment? I have some speaking cards up here, and I'll call you up one at a time. You have 3 minutes. Separate these real quick. Okay. So first on the list I have Ben Elliott. You have 3 minutes, please. Welcome, Ben.
Good afternoon. My name, as you guys know, is Ben Elliott. I'm the president or vice president of the Reno Tahoe Aviation Group here in Reno. We're an organization that represents most of the majority of the pilots here in Reno. Those pilots include general aviation, retired, active airline, and cargo pilots. I'm here today representing this organization to support the nomination and confirmation of Sean Carey for airport trustee. The Reno Tahoe Airport Authority has an operating budget of over $50 million per year and manages over $1 billion in public assets for all citizens of Washoe County. An individual appointed as airport trustee must be well qualified to oversee these public assets, budget, and assure proper oversight for our airports and its employees. Sean has experience in managing multi-million-dollar budgets. He understands how to lead public employees and hold them accountable. As Spark's longest-serving city manager, his tenure was free of controversy and scandal. He has a track record of good moral character. Sean has a work history in airport maintenance, which is important, safety and successful airport management. As city manager, Sean was able to work with other municipalities and governments to accomplish goals that were important. Sean has openly given his word. If given the opportunity to serve as the airport trustee, he will faithfully govern and be accountable to the citizens of Sparks and Washoe County. Sean has publicly stated he believes in an open, transparent, and accountable government. Given his experience and honorable track record, we believe he is the most qualified applicant and encourage you to appoint him as the airport trustee. Thank you.
Those two words, controversy and what?
You didn't say handsome.
Controversy and scandal. Okay, I never remember those for later on in the, and while we're doing this. Okay, next would be John Howitt. John, welcome.
Nice to see you, Mr. Mayor.
Good to be seen, sir. Believe me.
My name is John Howland. I'm a commercial pilot, flight instructor. I've been flying for 39 years. I have a passion for aviation. Combined with this passion, like many of you, I have a desire to serve my community. I am driven to make a difference. I'm a retired executive officer of the state of California. I have fulfilled 2 terms as Washoe County appointee to the Airport Noise Advisory Board. I am the past president of the Reno Tahoe Aviation Group. I currently serve on the executive board of ALS in Nevada as the vice chair. And I am president of a company that helps over 3,500 patients in our communities. My history and experience has afforded me basic knowledge of what good governance should look like. I have over the years expressed my thoughts and subjects to many of you. This is why I'm here. I support the appointment of Sean Carey as airport trustee. In my opinion, his history of integrity and governmental service is a qualification that is needed at our airport. As the RTAA continues in its journey through a cultural change to accountable governance. 6 years ago, Mayor Martini appointed Adam Mayberry to this position. Adam entered his tenure when the airport authority was accused of, to say the least, a lack of transparency and a loss of public trust. Sparks City Council and the mayor understood in its appointment to the RTAA that the foundation for good government is openness, transparency, and accountability to the people it serves, regardless of the specific issues at hand. With this in mind, Adam set out to insist on fundamental changes to restore the public trust in the RTAA. The goals that have been accomplished thus far: the RTAA now publishes its salaries in Transparent Nevada. Record requests are forthcoming without obstruction. The RTAA acknowledges that it is a governmental agency that serves a governmental purpose for a public benefit. This sounds basic, but I can assure you these changes are monumental compared to where we were. In my opinion, the key to Adam's success to accomplish these fundamental goals were the result of the insight of Mayor Martini and the Sparks City Council. One cannot argue the fact that Adam was accountable on nearly a daily basis to this city council, the mayor, and the city manager. 2 core principles of good governance. The results have shown it has made a difference. I applaud the mayor and the city council for your consideration of Sean Carey, who undoubtedly will continue to insist on good government principles at our airport. I ask you to appoint and confirm him as the next airport trustee. Thank you for your consideration, and thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. And John is well known in this area for general aviation, does a lot of things under the general aviation category, so he knows of what he speaks, okay? Just a tip for you. Next I have Jackson Sourwine.
Hello, Council. I'm with 39 North, and I'm here just to give you guys an update on our summer activities that are getting ready to gear up. Our first farmers market will be June 8th, and will run throughout the summer. We also have another event this year that's going to be the Honey and Lavender, Sierra Honey and Lavender Festival. It'll be on the 25th, which we expect to be a great event, the first time in Sparks, and we think it will be an annual event after this. We got another committee, a Sparks Business Connection Committee, where we're working on our blog, 39 North, to advertise new businesses that come to the community. We're also using that space to highlight properties that are for sale that might be of interest to businesses that want to come into the area. We're also looking for press releases. If you guys know anything like that, please share it with us. Press releases of new companies coming into Sparks that we can advertise and communicate with, and trying to get them in the fold of all these events that we have going on. Things are going pretty well. With this being our third year at 39 North, you know, we've taken the farmers market and we've seen it crumble away and almost disappear, and we're starting to feel like it's getting some real road building blocks of being put in place, and we're enjoying seeing the continued growth. There will be a meeting tomorrow night at Loca Tile, which is at 972 Gregg Street, right across from the tower. I guess I'm not even sure what it is anymore. It used to be the Purina Tower. But Loca Tile will be where the meeting will be at, and we invite everybody to come out and take a look. We'll have our train will be out on display. We last year were able to get a train that we have at our events now to haul kids around with. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet. If you haven't, please come to the meeting and check it out. And that's basically all I had to say. Just a real quick update on what 39 North is up to and what we're doing. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, moving on. Next public comment is from Judy Moss, and she just wants to say that she is in opposition of Mr. Carey's appointment to the.
No, it's 9.6.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold that. Miss Judy Moss will be coming on 9.6. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I misread that one. Okay. Now we will get to 4.0 again. Miss Ardina Perry will come forward, please, and give her 3 minutes public comment. Thanks, Ardina. Well, that remains to be seen, Ardina.
If I don't get my way, I'll take it back. Good afternoon. For the record, Ardina Perry. Sparks proud. Just Sparks proud. I'm here today to openly plead with the Sparks City Council, and I am requesting you to formally oppose SB 434. That would strip away the voting rights of Sparks citizens. Our most involved, informed, and intuitive citizens have gone to Carson City, all the way to Carson City, to defend the right of the public to protect independent legal decisions. The suggestion that somehow a subordinate will be allowed to have unbiased legal opinions is ludicrous. The time to stop this is right now in committee. We all know that's the easiest time to stop something, is in committee, and protect our future from this constant interference with our voting rights. I did send everyone a video to show you the sentiment of the public at that hearing. I hope you had time to watch it. If something happened it wouldn't open, you can let me know and I'll resend it. I'm Sparks proud. I think we're able to elect our own officials. We elected you, and we've elected Chet, and I anticipate being fully involved in continuing to elect our public officials without help and handy hints from the state of Nevada. God bless you, Gino. You just look
Bless
so
you
darn
too.
good. Thanks.
Thanks, Ardina. Anyone else under public comment want to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Everybody okay with the agenda, or you want to move some items up or down? Looking for a motion. I'm sorry, sir, you are? You know, I saw it here, John. It's just that I probably missed it. Or Jason, I mean. So you want, I've got Jason Guanasso on number 9.5. Is that?
I'll wait for that time.
You can do number 4 now.
I'll go ahead and,
You can do 9.5 later, or you can do number 4 now later, or you can do.
I'll go ahead and give my comments now, if that's okay.
This is in lieu of 9.5. Okay, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm Jason Guanasso. I'm a local attorney who serves churches and nonprofits here in the city of Sparks. And I'd like to address you about item coming up on your agenda under 9.5. It's no secret that I've been a vocal opponent against legalizing marijuana. I was actively involved in the campaign in opposition to Question 2. While the voters approved the legalization of recreational marijuana, the facts concerning the impact on society as a result of legalization certainly haven't changed. Therefore, I believe Sparks needs to embark upon a thoughtful and responsible approach to legalization. Presently, the legislature is considering 20 different pieces of legislation that will impact the rules regarding every aspect of recreational marijuana sales. Additionally, the governor has commissioned a task force with 8 committees addressing several aspects of marijuana legalization. Voters approved the measure when voters approved the measure, that is Question 2, the measure specifically said that the implementation of marijuana sales wouldn't take place till January of 2018. This date was selected by the marijuana industry, who during the campaign acknowledged the difficulties in rolling out appropriate regulation for recreational sales. In accordance with these facts, I'm urging this city council to wait. Don't decide what policy direction you want to go today. While you're awaiting, I would urge you to establish a task force for recreational marijuana sales. This task force would, 1, review and monitor all legislation now before the Nevada legislature. 2, it would review and monitor the work of the governor's task force. 3, it would review and monitor what the federal government is going to do regarding enforcing federal law regarding marijuana as a Schedule I drug. 4, this task force would develop recommendations to be considered by the City Council after the legislature and after the governor have completed their work and after it is clear what the federal government is going to do regarding recreational marijuana sales. In the wake of major law and policy shift in our state, it is important for the City of Sparks to take a thoughtful and deliberate approach to recreational marijuana sales. Rushing to a decision today regarding the appropriate policy direction for the city would be grossly irresponsible and ultimately, in my opinion, cause a lot more harm than good. Thank you very much for your time.
Now, anyone else under public comment? Okay, let's move on to number 5, 5.1, approval of the agenda. Anyone want to take anything out of order, or are we looking good? Mr. Smith?
Move to approve.
Do you have a second, Mr. Lawson?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve number 5 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. And there you have it. Okay, 6.1, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of March 27th, 2017. Any omissions, deletions, corrections? Looking for a motion. Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve.
Mr. Dare.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve the minutes of March 27th, 2017. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. All right, let's move on to the proclamations. Try to get them in order here. Okay, first we have Fair Housing Month. Anyone here received the Fair Housing Month proclamation? How are you, sir? Come on down and have a seat, and then you can introduce yourself and George, and then I'll read the proclamation for you.
My name is Roberto Ortiz with Fair Housing Council.
Say again.
Roberto Ortiz.
George Graham. Yes.
Welcome, George. Whereas April 2017 marks the 49th anniversary of Title 8 of the Civil Rights Action of 1968, the Federal Housing Act, which provides equal opportunity for all Americans in the sale, rental, and financing of housing, and prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin. And whereas the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988 added familial status and handicap to those classless protected by the Title VIII and added strong new rights, remedies, monetary penalties, and judicial and administrative enforcement procedures. And whereas Nevada state law also prohibits discrimination on the basis of ancestry, sexual orientation, the gender identity of expression. And whereas it is the solemn and sworn duty of the government of all levels to defend the rights of all citizens and oppose housing discrimination whenever and wherever it occurs. And whereas illegal barriers to equal opportunity in housing, no matter how subtle, that diminish the rights of some of our citizens, diminish the rules of all. And whereas the Silver State Fair Housing Council actively works to ensure equal housing opportunity for all people in Nevada to freely choose where they want to and can afford to live. And the City of Sparks supports the efforts of the Silver State Fair Housing Council and all other agencies pursuing fair housing. Now therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim April 2017 as Fair Housing Month. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Like I introduced myself, my name is Roberto Ortiz. I'm the Director of Programs for Silver State Fair Housing Council. It's wonderful. I have time to be working with George. He's a great asset to the city, and we definitely partner tremendously working with him on different types of issue. Silver State Fair Housing Council is a nonprofit agency whose mission is to ensure equal housing opportunities for all residents of Nevada. Our agency has a very long-standing and productive relationship with City of Sparks, providing fair housing resources, advocacy for all the Sparks residents, as well as working with housing providers under the CDBG program. On behalf of the board, the staff, and Silver State Fair Housing Council, we thank you for the continuing efforts to affirmatively further fair housing in the City of Sparks. We believe that equal housing opportunity allow us to break down barriers in the community and relate each other as neighbors and individuals, and we thank you so much for that.
I don't have anything additional. I don't have anything additional to add.
All right, go ahead, George.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. This is it's a pleasure, really. Our association, Silver State Fair Housing Council, is a long-standing stakeholder in the community and very good partner that over the years, my years, have had a good partnership in implementing all fair housing requirements and everything. For the CDBG program, it's a requirement, but more importantly, it's the right thing to do it in our community. And I appreciate the council support, city manager, mayor. I appreciate all of your support with the implementation, support of this implementation of the Fair Housing Council. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, George. Thanks for all you guys do. Thank you too, Sue, for what you do in your committee and everything. It's definitely needed, and unfortunately, we need to have committees like this to take care of these kind of problems. But you know, we do, and they work out fine. But I wish we didn't have to happen. So anyway, thank you guys for what you do. Appreciate it. Another country heard from. Okay, let's move on to a proclamation for Donate Life Month and Wear Blue and Green Day. Do we have someone here to? There she is. Welcome. Please give us your name for the record, please.
My name is Candy Candler. I'm the Community Development Liaison for Donor Network West.
Let me go ahead and read the proclamation, then I'll present it to you, okay? Water first. Whereas the wait list for a life-saving organ transplant in the United States alone is at nearly 120,000 people, and a new person is added to the organization transplant wait list every 10 minutes. And whereas more than 10% of American adults have chronic kidney disease, and the wait for a kidney transplant in Nevada is typically 5 to 7 years. A single donor can save the lives of 8 people through organ donation. My stepdaughter was the recipient of a transplanted kidney. It was a godsend, really, what happened with her life after she received it. So I'm very, very pleased about that. Whereas over 33,000 successful organ transplant operations were completed in 2016, the most of any year to date, bringing new life and hope to patients and their families in wait. And whereas 95% of Americans are in favor of being an organ donor, yet only 54% and registered donors. And whereas Donor Network West is the federally designated organ procurement organization, try to say that again. Whereas Donor Network West is the federally designated organ procurement organization in Northern Nevada, leading to the change for healing and saving lives through the miracle of organ donation. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Donate Life Month, and Friday, April 27th, 2017 as Wear Blue and Green Day in Sparks, and urge all citizens and businesses to show their support by commemorating this day by wearing the colors blue and green and or decorating windows, doors, and displays on a marquee. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Much. Thank you to the mayor and the Sparks City Council for recognizing Donate Life Month and Wear Blue and Green Day. Northern Nevada is a very giving community. We have about 61% in Northern Nevada registered as organ and tissue donors. However, every day 22 people die across the United States waiting for an organ. So if we can close that gap and get to 100%, then we can save and touch more lives. So thank you very much for recognizing us.
Thank you for all you do. Every year, I know you guys have a little fun run out there at the marina, I believe.
Taking place September 17th at the Sparks Marina. This will be the 10th annual event. Yep.
I remember when I started with this thing 10 years ago, there was maybe 7,500 people. Maybe now there's 800, 900
Yeah.
people.
It's grown quite a
That to be a
bit.
very, very nice thing for the community.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, next proclamation, Public Safety Telecommunications Week. We have someone here to, well, I remember this one every year, I'll tell you. Go ahead, Chief, introduce yourself and the ladies and,
Well, Brian Allen, your Chief of Police of the record. This is Mary Holbrook, one of our dispatch supervisors. And this week, because Teresa Wiley is on vacation, she's our acting communications manager. Lisa Rose Brown, who's another one of our dispatch supervisors. And I'm just going to say Lori Howard on it. I can't even say it. I'm sorry. I practiced it before I even came down here.
It's Monolucci.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to say it.
I know. That's the problem.
We're anticipating this. We're waiting for it. That'd be great.
Right, well, here we go. Whereas residents of Sparks dial 911 or the communication section for help in emergencies and on a routine basis, as the men and women who answer these calls gather vital information and dispatch public safety assistance, often making the difference between life and death. Whereas our emergency communications dispatchers are among the more than 500,000 telecommunications specialists who work daily to protect the public, promote public safety. And whereas our emergency communications dispatchers are the full content for a person in the crisis and are knowledgeable, highly trained individuals, employees who work closely with police, fire, and emergency medical personnel. And whereas Sparks residents enjoy a health standard of public safety and owe a great debt of emergency communications personnel who apply their expertise in the dispatching help to ensure public safety. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, do hereby proclaim April 9th through the 15th, 2017 as Public Safety Communications Week, and join with the City Council in acknowledging, here we go, and thanking our public safety dispatchers, David Brown, easy, Stephanie Buck, Lisa Buckles, Shelley Burkhart, Maureen Dayette, Mary Hale, Mary Holbrook, Christopher Luciano, Lydia McCoy, Makey McGinn. Say again? I'm close. Micah McGinn, Lori Montalatici. Montalacci, okay. Melissa Nabong, Rebecca Ormsby, Nancy Owens, Lisa Rose Brown, Sherry Terry, that's a good one. Sherry Terry, and the ever popular Denise Wagner. Thank you.
Hold on, you guys gotta say something.
Well, she has something. We're gonna go. I, for once, have very little to say. Thank you. Sister, all right. I said I didn't have very much to say, for once. Yeah, I just thank you, first of all. We're very lucky to have a city council who recognizes us every single year. It's kind of become routine for us to know that someone needs to be here this week. And the more, or the longer I've been doing this, the more I get to know other people in my profession from across the country and realize how lucky we are to have a city council that does acknowledge us and does appreciate us, and a city that does the same. So thank you guys for that. I really do appreciate it.
Anyone else?
I would like to say that on behalf of all the dispatchers, we appreciate the time you took to recognize everyone today. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're always there as the first responders receiving all of our 911 and non-emergency calls for any situation you may have. So thank you for taking your time out today, recognizing these great people who don't always want recognition, but they definitely deserve it. They work very hard.
Ed?
I just want to say thanks to you guys. In my travels around the communities, and you guys are all highly recognized and known as professionals, and that's makes me feel good that our folks in Sparks do such a wonderful job. So thank you.
Mr. Smith.
You know, you say you appreciate us. We appreciate you. For sure. We think about you guys a lot because the job you do is amazing, and you're very good at what you do. I have never heard anybody complain about being put off on calling dispatch or anything like that. So you can keep it up. You're the best. You're the best. So thank you.
Mr. Dare.
I think the more we hear too, the more we see that our group is in the leadership realm of even when it comes to Reno and Washouta. They look to what we do as examples many times because of what you do. And so getting a tour and getting to see it, it was pretty awesome and kind of amazing actually. You multitask well, but.
I just want to say, I always joke around that there's only one job I don't want in the police department, and that's the job that these ladies and now two gentlemen do on a daily basis. The way they can multitask, the way that they can coordinate all those things all at once is a truly amazing skill. And every once in a while we hear that dreaded C word come up in regards to services in our community, and we always fight it, especially in this area, because we know the quality and the effort that these ladies and gentlemen provide our city, specifically with our citizens, and to the level that they do it, and we do not want to get that diminished by outsourcing or doing something differently in our community. So we just take this week to honor them and to say thank you for, at times, what is a thankless job, because they don't get a lot of glory. At least they don't sit in the basement the way they used to in Hawaii State. They get a nice view from the second floor, but a lot of times they get overlooked in the whole public safety process. But without them, we would not know where to go or how to respond to our emergencies.
Do a great job. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, could I suggest that we move 9.4 up before we do the consent? We got some anxious customers out there that I'd like you to come down first off and introduce yourselves and your dogs, if that's okay. Don't mind.
What did I do wrong?
You didn't do anything wrong.
Okay.
It's
We
9.4.
went back to 9.4.
Yeah.
Is it okay with you guys if we do you first rather than the other people? I thought so. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for being here today. We appreciate it. And I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, maybe I don't.
We do have one lady down here. Item 9.4, Brian Allen, Chief of Police for the record, and you guys don't tell me no very often, but I brought these fine little creatures with me because it's kind of hard to say no to a cute little puppy. Yeah, and what we have before you is through the process, I just want to introduce the people that are here with me. This is Officer Tom Radley and our newest K-9 Edition, Rox, and she kind of spearheaded this whole process with these vests. We have Officer Glenn Marsh and Hitch, and then we have Detective Bear and Jamie here. So they're all part of our Sparks Police family. They roam the halls at will at times, and they come in and visit, and they make my home dog very jealous when I get home. So, but the reason why we're here before you today is when we came before you last fall, if you guys don't remember, we received 2 donations from different foundations in our community to apply to the purchase and training of Rox, our newest K-9. And that came about when Jamie here was promoted to detective and started, no longer was a road dog. In this process, we learned that A, Rox did not have a vest, and B, that the vest that Hitch was currently using was expired. So we have a couple different citizens that have stepped forward. Dr. John Crumley and his wife, Julianne, and one of our volunteers, Bruce Jacobson and Gloria Derby, both wanted to donate funds for the purchase of vests for our canines. I just thought this was a good opportunity to also just bring the dogs down and introduce the dogs to City Council and move forward and ask that these donations be approved. Each vest is about $1,085, a little over $2,000 for the purchase of both vests.
So you got 2 vests, and then, so that dog doesn't get a vest? Is that what it is, or? She has her own, so we'll be.
Just like the vest that we wear,
Okay.
vests are given a shelf life. A vest, usually standard vest, lasts 5 years. So when they expire, they are no longer covered per the
Okay.
manufacturer. So we have to replace them just like we would our officer's body armor.
That's a wonderful gift. I do.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to say anything? Dogs want to say anything?
I think Rox has already been trying to say a lot, but.
Which one's the lady?
Actually, we have 2. We have Rox and we have Jamie.
Welcome, ladies. Good to see you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I want to say I got to see a demonstration by Officer Marsh and Lieutenant at my Rotary Club, and it's impressive, the dogs and the way they react. And then I've got to spend my 6 years on council a lot with Officer Bear and Jamie. I got to do a ride-along and do some things with them, too. And, of course, at our free fishing day, you guys are a staple, and the kids love it. So I think this is a great community outreach program we have here, along with being good for the city. So I'm glad that we have concerned citizens that would donate that money for us. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good too, Eddie. I see you don't have any bite marks or anything either, so.
I know when to keep my mouth shut.
Thanks, gentlemen. Chief, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Move to approve.
Sean, go ahead. I'm sorry. Do we have a motion? I'm sorry.
I was just going to also acknowledge how giving our residents, our citizens are, and really acknowledge the fact that we had private citizens who were ready to step up, I can't talk, step up and do this for you and for obviously much needed, and really glad to see that, and glad to see that you'll be getting the equipment that you need for a very valuable resource for the Sparks Police Department, and I'm ready to make a motion.
Please.
I move to accept funds from citizens to purchase bullet-resistant vests for 2 police service dogs.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 9.4 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks.
Thank you for your continued support.
Okay, now you can bark.
I'd hate to be on the receiving end.
You've got all the appointments, so
Okay.
your
All right,
9.2 and
9.3.
3 are all your appointments.
9.3 is Sean Carey. Okay. Bonus. All right, let's do the consent items quickly, please. Anybody want to pull the consent item 8.1 through 8.19? Mr. Lawson,
I don't want to pull any, I'll
Okay.
make a motion,
go for it.
move to approve, consent items 8.1 through 8.20.
Do you have a second? Second. Mr. Dare? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve agenda items, consent items 8.1 through 8.20. Do I have 8.20 here? 8.20, counting. It's right there, okay. Any further discussion? Please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to business items. Mr. Cruz. Okay, general business number 9.1, consideration, discussion, and possible appointment of a city council member of the Regional Animal Service Advisory Board from the following pool of applicants listed in alphabetical order: Donald Abbott, Charlene Bybee even, sorry about that, dear. Christopher Dare, Ed Lawson, and Ron Smith. Mr. Kreutz.
Record Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager, here today with a new advisory board, a regional advisory board. You'll recall that in 2003, the 2 cities in Washoe County agreed to consolidate the provision of animal services under Washoe County. We gave up a couple of pennies of property tax to make our contribution there. And in that time, the county has managed those services on our behalf. They started a comprehensive code rewrite a little over a year ago, started approving bits and pieces of it last summer, one of which was the creation of a new advisory board for animal services. They chose to create a 7-member board. 3 of the members would be elected officials, one from the Sparks City Council, one from the Reno City Council, one from the Washoe County Commission, and then 4 citizens, all 4 citizens who have various specialties in animal services and in that industry would be appointed by the county commissioners. But the seat that is to be filled by a Sparks City Council person is up to this body, and you've heard Gino read the list of potential members, and with that, we would ask that you work amongst yourselves to pick somebody and make that nomination. Before I do end, the meetings are intended to be quarterly, and they are intended to start this coming summer. In the language that was adopted by the county, there was no discussion of an alternate And in speaking with the city attorney's office, that means that you are not in a position where you can provide an alternate, just to, in case that question was laying out there for anybody. So we are just asking for you to appoint a member.
Questions for Neil? Mr. Lawson?
I'd like to volunteer Donald Abbott.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
Good job, Bill.
Can I share?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I also think Charlene would be good, so I think it would be a good conversation. I say that, it's always fun to give other people out there. So, I don't know, I think it'd be good to hear from the two of them and then make a decision. I think either of them would do fantastic.
Go ahead, landslide, let her go.
Oh, I'm all for learning a little bit more, so I enjoy animals my entire life. I don't know too much more.
It's not the dating game.
How about you, Charlene?
Having sat here for 2.5 years and having numerous animal issues come before this council, the largest and most notorious maybe was our feral cat issue. We seem to deal with a lot of animal issues from the fish in the marina to feral cats to numerous issues, and I have a very active constituents, especially in my ward and otherwise, that I'm in contact with a lot because their concerns on the animal issues are so great. So, and it's what I've come to realize going through the issues that we have is that we really need to protect the voice of Sparks. Washoe County is in charge of animal services, and that was something that was decided a while ago, and it was decided for Washoe County to run animal services, which is where it is right now. But I don't think that means letting the voice of the citizens of Sparks not be heard. So I think it's important on this board to have a strong voice there, because we are the only ones who are speaking on behalf of Sparks, and what's good for the county might not be good for Sparks. And so I'm concerned. I'm concerned, just given issues and county commission meetings I've gone to with animal issues. I'm very concerned about those issues and making sure that we are there to tell them what our thoughts are, so that we have that important voice that's there and that we're represented. So.
Okay, looking for a nomination.
Can I make a nomination for Charlene?
You have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve Charlene Bybee as our new Truckee River funded, right, not the wrong one. Animal Services representative. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll talk later, right?
Next is 9.3, consideration and possible approval of the mayor's recommendation of an appointment to the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority Board of Trustees from the following pool of applicants listed in alphabetical order: Jeff Bowling, Sean Carey, Kathy Jo Cromenis, David Shockett. Okay, discussion. Any questions?
He skipped over 9.
Did I skip over two?
That's right, we can do this one.
Well, maybe after 3 or 4 more meetings, I might be back in shape to do this. Okay, go ahead.
You haven't been doing this long, so.
You're right. It's only been a month. Okay, go ahead. Let's do 9.3. It's okay.
9.3.
Airport board? Yeah.
Okay.
Airport board.
I would agree. Sean Carey probably the best choice.
Second.
So a motion and a second for Sean Carey. Any discussion?
Is that your appointment then, Mayor?
Yeah, I'll go through that in a minute. Any more discussion? Yeah. This is definitely, this is an easy pick for me, Sean Carey. Obviously, was the manager here for many, many years. Did a terrific job being the manager here at the City of Sparks. Didn't just sit up here on the podium and do nothing. He worked very, very hard. We became very, very good friends, and no disrespect to our present city manager, because he's a good one too, so. But Sean has done a terrific job for not only himself and the employees, but the city of Sparks. I can't think of anyone who is more fit for this kind of a job, representing the total populace of Reno and Sparks. I know he'll do a terrific, terrific job. So those are my recommendations. All in favor, or please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Sean. Sean, would you come up and say a few words, please? I want you to know the big bonus of the day is I got him to wear a tie.
Not in its Hawaiian shirt.
I did have to knock the dust off the tie, Gino, but it was good. Thank you all, members of the council, for your trust. I look forward to serving the board and making sure that Sparks issues, the issues of our aircraft owners, the issues of our airlines, and everyone who comes through the door are addressed in a business-like manner. That we'll work very hard in that endeavor. Be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'm truly honored and thankful for your selection.
Any questions for Sean? Okay. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Look forward to having you on the board. Nine point two, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the mayor's recommendation of an appointment to the Truckee River Fund Advisory Committee from the following pool in alphabetical order. Mr. Ron Penrose. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Steve Driscoll, city manager. I'm just here to answer any questions on this committee. Beyond that, it's just your recommendation, sir.
Questions about Mr. Penrose? My recommendation came from Mr. Penrose, worked with Sierra Pacific Power Company, I believe, and the water company at that time for 30-plus years, maybe more. I'm not sure how long it was, but it was a long, long time. Knows a lot about the river, knows what the river needs, knows what things that we need to do to put money into the river to make it a better place for people like us in Sparks and Reno to go and recreate on the Truckee River. It's a beautiful river. We definitely do not take enough advantage of that river. I wish we could do more to have more recreation and things, but there's so many restrictions on that river, it's difficult to do that. So Mr. Penrose comes from good stock. He came from Worcester High School in the 60s. So he's been here for a while, knows his job, knows about the Truckee River, and that's what we need on this particular position, is somebody that knows the Truckee River and all the stipulations and things that have to be watched for backwards and forwards. Questions? Looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
I move to confirm Mayor's appointment of Ron Penrose to the Truckee River Fund Advisory Committee.
Mr. Abbott. I'll second it. Moved by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Abbott to approve 9.2, Ron Penrose to the mayor's recommendation of the appointment to the Truckee River Fund Advisory. Any questions? Please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, 9.5, consideration and possible direction to the city manager for possible amendments to the Title V and Title 20 of the Sparks Municipal Code regarding the operation, sales, and taxing of recreational marijuana in the city of Sparks. Possible action, Mr. Arnalis, Ms. Karen?
Good afternoon, Mayor Martini and Council. I'm Karen Melby, Development Service Manager, and with me today is our Armando Arnalis, who's the Assistant Community Service Director. The item before you today is to discuss and possibly provide possible direction to the city manager regarding the operations, sales, and charging of fees for recreational marijuana businesses in the city of Sparks. The basic question before you today is, does the city of Sparks want to allow existing medical marijuana establishments to expand into the recreational marijuana business. In November 2016, the citizens of Nevada voted to pass an initiative, also known as Question 2, to regulate the businesses, to tax marijuana sales, and to declare the use of marijuana legal for adults 21 and older. The Nevada Department of Taxation is working on establishing interim regulations. The target date for the publication of these are May 8th, 2017. The Department of Taxation has indicated that the interim regulations will allow the medical marijuana establishments to apply for growing, processing, testing, distribution, and sales of recreational marijuana on May 10th, with the intent of permitting the medical marijuana establishments to be in operation in July of 2017. This schedule does not consider time for the local jurisdictions to review and adopt the regulations for operations and charging of fees of the marijuana businesses before July 1st date. The best case scenario schedule for the adoption of interim city code amendments is starting with May 8th, the publication of the interim regulations, and ending with the city council review and possible approval of the code amendments would be on July 24th, which does not meet the target date of July 1st. The city manager proposes one option, which would be to institute a short moratorium. A moratorium would allow the city manager to review the state regulations, draft code amendments, and then adopt code amendments for the allowance of the medical marijuana establishments expand their operations into recreational marijuana. The option of a moratorium would prevent the city manager from having to deny any recreational marijuana applications submitted to the city during that period when there are no regulations in place to process, approve, or charge fees for these businesses. To reiterate the basic question before you today, does the City Council want to permit existing medical marijuana establishments to expand into the sale, cultivation, production, testing, and distribution of recreational marijuana in Sparks? To assist in the discussion, a table of pros and cons was provided in the staff report and will be the focus of our presentation today. This table includes input from both the police chief and the fire chief. Let me open that table.
The table is included in your staff report, and basically what we've done is outline some options that Karen's going to go through now.
Apparently, it doesn't want you to open the table. So the first option is this city does not allow recreational marijuana businesses in Sparks. The pros with this, the city would not have to regulate this new business, and no emergency calls would be for the medical marijuana establishments or the recreational marijuana. Some of the cons would be the loss of potential revenue to the city. Existing medical marijuana in Sparks would be precluded from operating any recreational operations in the city. With the legalization of recreational marijuana in the state of Nevada, Sparks would still have to respond to emergency calls and policing issues while getting little revenue to pay for these services. And then also, the only existing medical marijuana testing laboratories are located in northern Nevada or within the city of Sparks. And if we preclude recreational marijuana, there wouldn't be able to be any testing in northern Nevada of recreational marijuana. The second option is, this option allows that the existing medical marijuana businesses of cultivation, production, and testing to expand into the recreational marijuana. The pros or the benefits would be to allow the industrial side of the business, which would not allow the retail sales of the business, would generate some revenue for the city and also potentially fewer emergency phone calls. The cons would be the city would incur costs regulating the recreational marijuanas, which could potentially exceed the city's revenue from the industry, may result in calls for services from the fire and police departments, loss of potential revenue to the city from the marijuana retail sales, existing medical marijuana establishments and Sparks would be precluded from operating the retail component of recreational marijuana, and also this would be as they are right now, currently a cash business. The third option that we wanted to present to you today, and this is the last one, allows all existing medical marijuana establishments to expand into recreational marijuana establishments. The benefits would be that these businesses are operating currently, and city staff is familiar with their operations and staff, and there's a potential for increase in revenues to the city. The cons would be the city will incur costs of regulating these recreational marijuanas that may exceed the city's revenues, may result in calls for services to the police and fire departments, currently a cash business, as I stated earlier, and could significantly increase the workload of the Fire Prevention Bureau based on the experience in Denver, Colorado. In the staff report were proposed 6 alternatives for consideration by the City Council. Alternatives 1 and 2 are related. Alternative 1, the City Council could establish the policy of not allowing recreational marijuana establishments within the City of Sparks. Alternative 1 states that there would be no recreational marijuana establishments in Sparks, not even the expansion of medical marijuana establishments. While Alternative 2, City Council could establish the policy of not allowing existing medical marijuana establishments to expand their operations into recreational marijuana establishments within the City of Sparks. Alternative 3, the City Council could direct the city manager to prepare code amendments and that permit only limited existing medical marijuana operations to expand into recreational marijuana establishments, such as cultivation, production, and testing, while not allowing retail sales. This process would require the preparation of a business impact statement and the public comment period. Alternative 4, the City Council could direct the city manager to prepare the code amendments to permit all existing medical marijuana establishments in Sparks to add recreational marijuana operations. This process would also require the preparation of a business impact statement and public comment period. The 5th alternative, City Council could direct the city manager to prepare a moratorium for future City Council consideration to allow the city manager time to prepare regulations for recreational marijuana establishments. This process would also require the preparation of a business impact statement and public comment. The 6th and last alternative proposed today is the City Council could direct the city manager to wait for the final state regulations, which would be potentially published at the end of this year before amending the City Sparks Municipal Code. The city manager does not propose any motion at this time. As proposed, the alternatives are just suggested directions and does not preclude combining alternatives or other directions from the City Council. This concludes the presentation, and we'd like to open it up for discussion and possible direction.
Discussion? Direction? Whoa.
Is there public comment?
Public comment I have is Shane Johnson. Welcome, Shane. Thank you.
Shane Johnson for the record. I think like many other folks who are currently operating a medical marijuana establishment in the city of Sparks, the group that I am with and affiliated with, we chose Sparks in large part because it is a very business-friendly jurisdiction. And what I will say is this industry as a whole right now in Nevada, it is very competitive from a business perspective, and any delays that the city of Sparks may take in enabling people who currently operate a medical marijuana business within the city of Sparks and actually enabling them to also participate in this recreational side of things will be a major negative impact. We've spent, just our business alone, $4.5 million in tenant improvements. A lot of that value went to local businesses. We employ 35 local people that get paid good salaries, and I would encourage the mayor and the council to actually even consider moving forward on an accelerated temporary regulations that are being considered by the state that I believe will be put forth fairly shortly are really just a parallel of the existing regulations for medical. So there's not at this point in time a request to do anything different, but it's to support those of us operating in this industry to continue to be able to run our businesses. I will say right now, as a wholesale only business, if we are competing against other people, I know Clark County is moving ahead on a very accelerated timeline. If we are forced to compete and we cannot also sell into the recreational markets here in Nevada, it will put the business candidly at a major disadvantage. A dispensary down in Clark County will not want to buy from us if we can't supply everything that they are selling. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. And then I have, I believe here, one more. Alec Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. My name is Alec Garcia. I'm with 374 Labs. That is a testing facility located here in Sparks. We've been operating for over 2 years now under this medical license. I'm also one of the appointed members on the governor's task force that was mentioned previously, working on the final regulations that will be put in place later this year. Based on the presentation, I know there's some concerns about regulating new businesses as well as, an increase to fire and police calls. My comment to that would just be that keep in mind that these current temporary regulations mirror the medical, which all the operating businesses are currently operating under. We're all in good standing, obviously, with the city as well as the state, and the business itself doesn't change other than, one more person is applicable to purchase this product. So everybody that would be in the temporary program has already gone through the city zoning, the administrative reviews, and those requirements that Sparks has implemented for the medical program. Regarding the timeline, I believe that the Department of Taxation will have the proposed temporary regulations posted this week after their workshops that they had previous to this. The May 8th date is the next time they're scheduled to get together to approve those. So hopefully there is some opportunity for the council to review those regulations prior to that May 8th date and hopefully get a jump start on it. As Shane mentioned in the previous comment, I think that any delay to the businesses of Sparks will put us at a tremendous disadvantage when competing with other cities and cultivators, producers, or laboratories in the state that pass this for the July 1 start. I think that with these things in mind, we appreciate everything that you guys have done with us on the medical side, and hopefully we can roll that over onto the recreational basis and provide a thriving industry here for Sparks.
Brett Scolari.
Brett Scolari with Trike Companies. We have a medical marijuana dispensary at 195 East Glendale. Wanted to thank this council and your staff going through that process 2 years ago with you all. We are in 4 different jurisdictions. Sparks was by far the easiest and the best to work with, and we really appreciated that, and we love being a part of the community. I just wanted to get up and echo what the previous speakers stated. We are working on a timeline with the Department of Tax. And let me bring everyone back. November, the voters spoke on this issue, and we all know what that outcome was. There's been a couple reactions to that. One is the governor put money in his budget that comes from these funds and from these sales, and he wants to implement that by July 1. So we are working against that clock. Another thing that folks might not realize is
Question 2 allowed folks to possess an ounce or less starting January 1, 2017. What they don't have is a place to buy the product. So what does that do? That helps the black market. Every day that goes by, the black market might get stronger. So we need to keep that in consideration too. I also wanted to state too that the Department of Tax is working on 2 tracks. I want to be clear. The temporary track they're working on adopts basically the world we live in now. All the rules we live in, the zoning, the operational rules, the security requirements, everything, that'll all stay the same until they can get through their task force duties and their permanent regulation process through the rest of the year. And then January 1, 2018, if they have permanent regs, that'll govern recreational sales 2018 and beyond. So what we're asking for from the local jurisdictions as yourselves is to adopt that concept of the temporary sales so we can start paying our taxes that the governor wants and hopefully eliminate the black market that's we believe is probably pretty strong right now based upon that little fact that January 1 you can possess, but you that I just appreciate a supportive recommendation number 4. And I know there's a lot of folks in the industry. We're here to help you all and offer any assistance that we can to speed this along. We appreciate it.
Yes, well, not a question, not for him. I have a few thoughts on this, and you're welcome to stay, and you can give some answers if you want.
Okay, wait a minute. Do we have, I'm sorry. Do you have any other public comment? Seeing none? Okay, let's bring it back to the council. Mr. Dare, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. I have some, and I appreciate, thank you, Mr. Scolari, Mr. Garcia, and Mr. Johnson. I thank you for coming here and sharing. Without question, we are business friendly. Without question, we're also, as a city, required to be responsible for the infrastructure of what we do for our city. That is something that we carry, and it's been what's been asked of us from each of our constituents. And with that said, I am very concerned about the added weight of what could come to our police, to our fire. I'm very concerned about some of those things, and part of it is there's so many unknowns. Legislation, I've been studying it since I knew this was coming. There are many unknowns, things that you guys don't even know. You don't know for sure what will pass, what won't pass, and there's no guarantee. As we walk forward, we have to make decisions that are wise for the city of Sparks. And again, appreciating business people all around. That's not the question. But we're given the task to make sure we make decisions that are wise. And so, for me, I am very concerned when it comes to legislation, when it comes to what's happening federally. I actually would stand with the moratorium that would wait and let us find out what's going on so we can make a decision that's good for all citizens and not just for a business. And I appreciate business, but we have a responsibility. And so for me, I'll throw that out there to our city council for conversation. And obviously, we're going to come and we're all going to end up making a decision here today. But I am very concerned. We do budgeting, and looking at budgeting, we are in the middle of growing. In the next 15 years, we'll grow up to 50,000 people in Sparks, they're saying. We can't hire more police right now because we don't have the finances to do so, to really even stay ahead of the curve that's coming. But instead, we're going to right now make decisions that possibly put more weight on the very people we can't continue to hire for. I have some real concerns, and I am not one, and I don't mind disclosing, I am not one that would use marijuana or even I work with youth and I work with many people who are over here. But I can tell you, even putting that aside, and I'm hoping I'm in my brain I'm doing that, my job here is not to morally talk to anybody about it, but to fiscally look at what we're doing as a city, and we have to make those decisions. And so we don't even know truly what kind of tax money we will get. I've looked at them. It's not clear. It's not clear. And they've also put caps on it where there's very little. So even if we're trying to say we're going to get a little bit of money, it's very small in comparison. And so very big concerns. Let me share that. I won't go on. Sorry.
Anyone else? Ron Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, one council can't make decisions to pass on to another council. We all realize that. But when this first went to the legislature, we decided as a council not to get involved, to let the state pick the licensees for selling medical marijuana and recreational when that came about. So we had no decisions on who we'd pick. We had nothing to do with that, and I like it that way. Again, this is, and it was said a couple of times today, the regulations that they're going to use are the exact same regulations that they have in place right now. We can't make a decision on what might happen. We can't make a decision on what regulations might take place, or even the date when they're going to actually allow you to start selling the recreational marijuana. I'm not in favor of recreational marijuana, but I am in favor of the businesses that are here, and it was passed by the voters of the state. Not just the voters in Sparks or Washoe County or Clark County. It was passed by the state. That ship has sailed, as far as I'm concerned. I'm gonna support it. That the city allows the people that have the licenses now to continue on and sell the recreational marijuana in their places of business. We all know $4.5 million that he spent. I know that that was probably the same with everybody else. They've been in business. They're trying to do it by the law, and that's all we can ask. They're in places that the police department has okayed. They said you have to go where we can drive by and see your businesses, and they've all done that. So, for me, does the city council want to permit the sales, cultivation, production, testing, and distribution of recreational marijuana? I say we should. We're on that path. If so, does the city council want to amend SMC zoning and business license regulations to permit existing MMEs to add recreational marijuana? I say yes. And I'll go down here to number 2. I'm going to go down here to number 2 if I can find it.
I'm watching. You're doing well.
What's that?
It's a moratorium for license.
Yeah, and I don't want to see a moratorium. Where are we? Oh, here we are. City council could direct the city manager to prepare code amendments to permit all existing MMEs and Sparks to add recreational marijuana operations. This process would also require the preparation of a business impact statement in the public comment period. That's my suggestions.
Ms. Bybee.
I have a lot of concerns too. I do appreciate the established medical marijuana establishments have been vetted, so to speak. So we understand what we have set up in the city of Sparks. We know, those of you who own those establishments, who you are, and you've worked with us, and we've worked with you on setting up the medical marijuana. Recreational for me is a big issue, huge issue. I've got my misgivings federally. We don't know with this administration what kind of changes could come down from the federal government. We don't know if that will jeopardize federal funding to the city of Sparks, depending on what that ruling is. And if it does change, how do we undo what recreational marijuana is set up? How do we undo that? I have big concerns about that. One of my top concerns is DUIs. We have no proven scientific methods to tell how someone who's pulled over for erratic driving gets a breathalyzer or possibly blood test if they've been drinking. It's not a good science for testing for marijuana since it stays in your system for several days. So the sobriety issues for driving, for the increase in the fallout from that Colorado and other states that Colorado has seen, concerns me greatly, to make sure our roads are safe, that our kids are safe. And there's no way of testing that right now. And I don't know how soon that will come. I realize that's not something that could come about tomorrow, and I'm realistic about that, but it is a concern. In Colorado, 75% of their municipalities do not allow recreational marijuana sales, which I was surprised to see that statistic. So we do have an ability here, whether we want to have recreational in our city, and obviously that's what we're deciding today. The cost for our law enforcement and fire law enforcement, especially as Councilman Dare alluded to, my concern on recreational is kind of a whole different, is a whole nother step for me, and concerns about what kind of effect that will have on our law enforcement. And the fact that our budget is so tight, and the fact that can our policing keep up with the fallout from recreational marijuana is a huge concern for me. And the tax revenue. We don't know. What I've read so far, and I know it's still in the works, we're still, the governor and the legislature are deciding, but the taxation that comes in, is it all going to the state of Nevada, like a lot of things do, and then the cities are asked to do things, and not given, they're basically unfunded mandates in a way, because the cities have the law enforcement and other code enforcement, law enforcement, and the fallout to the municipalities, but we're not given the funds to do that, and that is a huge concern. I know that the legislature, there's so many bills down there. I'm not comfortable today making a decision because we really don't know, as in everything down at the legislature, we don't know till sine die what that's going to look like and what legislation they will actually pass, and then what the taxation, what the task force will decide with the governor. And I just think there's more information we need. I've voiced my concerns, but I really want to see what happens at the legislature, what that task force finds out, what the revenue to the city of Sparks will be before I'm comfortable with making any decision today. So I'm not saying no, I'm not saying I would not support recreational marijuana. I'm more comfortable if it is with the established medical marijuana establishments, if it happens. But today, I'm not comfortable with doing that, and I would be in favor of number 6 for a moratorium, waiting to see what we have that information. I'm just someone who needs a lot of facts and info to make a good decision. And when we have all that information, then I'm comfortable with moving forward and having the city manager look at what we can do and how we address it in the city of Sparks. But right now, I would be supporting option 6.
Mr. Lawson?
Well, obviously. I didn't realize your hair was so long. Make sure, they're always tricking me in the back room there. I spent some time and read an article on the Colorado and the impact of medical or recreational marijuana in Colorado. And for 17 pages, it went on with this happened and that happened, this happened, that happened. The bottom line is it came out neutral. It adds 1% to the general fund in Colorado, which is not a significant impact. It has actually reduced policing efforts because you're not chasing around the average guy who's smoking a joint on the corner, and you can possess up to an ounce and still be legal. So policing efforts have actually gone down. Teenagers, believe it or not, the usage went down in teenagers when it became legal. And the usage in my generation went up, obviously. So, because it probably went from 0 to more than 0. But the bottom line is that I don't see this as a big issue. I get it that it's a big decision, but the 3 dispensaries we have in Sparks, all great business people. I know each one of them individually. I know they have class operations, and they'll continue to work that way. I think there's no question in my mind that the question is, one, are we going to allow recreational marijuana dispensaries? And I'd say absolutely yes. The question is, how do we implement all this stuff? And I know that I talked with the city manager. We were talking about a moratorium possibly till like middle August. I don't know, you guys didn't say how long the moratorium was in your report here, but I was thinking it was very short. Mr. Manager, if you could help me.
According to the testimony by Karen, to meet the dates that have timeframes specific to it, the quickest we would be able to have something back in front of you with all the regs changed would be the second meeting in July.
In July?
That would be the fastest we'd be able to get.
So, to me, that's a minor for us to get it right. We don't know what's going to happen. You just heard earlier that there's 20-some bills down in the state of Nevada. Do we know, are they going to make you separate recreation from medical? Are you going to, do you have 2 entrances? Are you going to have 2 buildings? We don't know some of that stuff. So obviously, for the city of Sparks to regulate on things we don't know, obviously we can't get that done in that short a period of time, but we will know that by the second meeting in July, and it can come back to us. We could approve it on that day, and away we go. So I would just implore the recreational marijuana folks to hang with us. Let us get it right, so we don't do it something wrong. And I don't think well, it's not even a 2-month. It's less than a month delay. It's about a 3-week delay is all from implementation on July 1 versus July 20, whatever it is, for our second meeting. Okay? That's about all I have to say on it.
Mr. Abbott?
Yeah, so, is there any talk of what their plan is down there? Yeah, Reno. Or what date?
Only direction, I talked to Michael Chomp in the Business License Department, and he said the only direction that they've been given is to watch all the bills. And the same with Washoe County. I talked to Bob Webb at Washoe County, and he said that the manager's office is just watching all the bills. At this point, they are not proceeding forward with any recommendations or even going into a public forum about the issue yet.
I guess you could say they'll be behind us.
Correct.
No
Yes.
matter what right now at this point. Can I keep going?
Sorry?
I say, can I keep going? With the establishments, with the 3 of them on the dispensary side, are they, well, I guess all of them, the cultivation, testing, are they all ready, as far as you guys know, for, July 1st, July 24th, to kind of pull the trigger on that?
Well, they're all in operation, except for the dispensary. One dispensary is under construction right now, and also one cultivation production facility is under construction. We have, including the ones there's 8 operating cultivation facilities right now, and will be 3 dispensaries. So they're in operation right now or under construction. So total of 9 cultivation.
Whether they're ready in terms of complying with whatever state regs, that's to be determined. But the ones, obviously the ones that are in operation are best positioned to move forward with recreational.
Adams?
If I were to advise a business client, I would always ask the client, okay, would you want to get into a business that you don't even know what the laws or the regulations are going to be just yet? And I think from a business standpoint, it would behoove the city to look at this from a business aspect. In other words, it's been mentioned several times about the 20 bills that are before the legislature. Those bills will relate to law enforcement, prosecutions, everything from urine samples to testing levels. Obviously, something like this is going to have an impact on our police, our courts, our prosecutions, and the city council's got to be able to step back and say, okay, how much do we have coming in? How much can we expect to see? 463 limits the business license tax imposed by the local governments. Some of these monies may go to specialty courts. Some of these monies may go to rehab programs. There's no such thing as a criminal anymore. It's always somebody's fault in society. So now we've got to fix a problem that we've helped to create. There was a speaker earlier on today that mentioned the possibility of a task force. I think the city council wants to get as much information as possible. Right now, the governor's got his committee, taxation, revenue, and regulatory structure. We don't even know how this is going to be packaged. We don't know if we can even recognize any revenues from this. So until we can just see what the Nevada legislature does, then it would probably behoove us to just kind of stand back and wait. Yeah, we are a business-friendly city, but that's because we know the business license environment and the regulatory environment. And we can afford to be friendly when we know all of that, but here we don't know that. We don't know what the regulations are going to be. It may be so onerous And one of the council members mentioned earlier that we may have all kinds of unfunded mandates placed upon us if we allow this type of business. So again, until you know the structure, until you know how the legislature is going to operate, the Department of Taxation has been woefully inadequate. One of your other speakers talked about, well, less than an ounce is legal. Well, is it or isn't it? I mean, if we catch somebody with less than an ounce of marijuana, but it hasn't come from a licensed facility, have they violated a law? And if the whole idea behind the law is for taxation, then we're not getting any tax revenues. And I think arguably we probably could prosecute somebody. So it's those kinds of issues that are still up in the air that we don't know about. And I think it's premature to embark upon a policy of allowing this until we know what it is that the state will allow us to impose on these businesses. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Murr. Mr. Manager, you said July 24th would be the first time it could come back?
Second meeting in July.
July. Does that mean we couldn't even start the rezoning process or any business licenses until then? And then if that's what we have to do, July 24th, we can actually figure they wouldn't get in until September? Maybe?
That would be correct. I think July 24th would be the earliest that we're seeing that the city council could adopt amendments to the business licensing and zoning codes. And then after that, there would have to be application submitted to, to go through, presumably the administrative review process to establish a recreational marijuana establishment.
What's the time frame, Armando?
Well, typically, what, they're close to 60 days on an AR? Less than that?
3 weeks.
Well, yeah, between, from
3 to
Around
application
September
to,
sometime?
yeah. So there would be a process on the applicant's part to submit for whatever location, presumably it's the same locations. Obviously that would be somewhat expedited because they are in fact the same locations, but a few weeks at least after July 24th before someone could legally establish the new use, depending again on some of the requirements that Councilman Abbott was alluding to in terms of, separate entrances, et cetera, so.
So if the state's pushing to be able to start selling on July 1st. So if they can start selling on July 1st, we can't do anything until probably September.
Well, unless the state is going to promulgate regs that somehow override all of our local ordinances, you still need permission from the city of Sparks to establish an RME, and we would have to process those applications. So I don't see how it could happen on July 1st, frankly.
I understand the other council members wanted to be cautious, but like I say, you can't vote on what might come down the line. You don't know what's going to. You can vote on the information we have, and what we have is they're under the same rules and regulations as they are now with medical marijuana. Is that true?
If I may, Mr. Manager, one possibility in terms of sort of balancing some what I'm hearing from the council would be to give direction to staff to go ahead and start developing the code amendments. We could start this process. We would be into July before it would come to council for possible approval. And if in fact the state legislature has finished its business and there's the opportunity to review what laws they promulgated in terms of this, it may be possible then to determine whether you want to proceed with what you've started or whether you want to pull back.
So we can start right now with the SMC zoning changes?
Manager that direction, staff could start to work on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawson.
Well, let me try and divide this elephant up a little bit. I want to make a motion. Number one, let's just solve the first question. Are we going to allow recreational marijuana in the city of Sparks? And my motion would be that, yes, we are going to allow recreational marijuana in Sparks. So that's my motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, for discussion, we have a motion on the floor that Mr. Lawson made to allow recreational marijuana in the city of Sparks. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any problem with taking up this issue, Mr. Adams, right now?
Well, I'm looking at the agenda item, and it does say, regarding the operations, sales, and taxing. So it does mention sales, although in addressing Councilman Lawson's motion, it would be, I think, a little bit better to structure that question a little bit differently. Should the consideration
Allow the
of possible
sales and
direction of the city-
manufacturing?
Yeah, should the city of Sparks allow the sales of recreational marijuana in the city of Sparks? But, I mean, this includes it, so if that's an issue you want to take up, then
Or you say is legal. Do I need to add sales and cultivation to the motion? If I do, then I will amend my motion to include that.
well, the agenda item says operation
Second,
sales.
please, Mr. Driscoll.
Just for some clarification on the businesses inside the city of Sparks, which are currently legal, and it's being contemplated by this motion. There are 4 types of licenses today, and it is contemplated that those 4 licenses would be theoretically extended to take on recreational, at least in the temporary period. So just to understand that if you don't mention all 4, you're potentially excluding them with your motion. If that's not your intent, then we should mention all 4 licenses.
My intent is to eat the elephant one bite at a time rather than the whole thing. So the first question is, are we going to allow the sales of recreational marijuana in Sparks by the existing 3 dispensaries that we have? So I'm going to amend my motion to say that and see if I get a second.
I would have an objection to that. I think that you need to clarify the agenda item then, if that's really what we're talking about here.
What can I do then, Mr. Adams? Understand the intent of what I'm trying to do. What can I do legally?
You know what, and I don't want to get you guys in the jackpot again with the open meeting law.
What direction is staff looking for here, Armando?
The way, Mr. Mayor, the way we intended the agenda item to be structured is that we were looking for direction as to whether or not to proceed with preparing possible amendments to Title V and Title 20 regarding the operation, sales, and taxing. So, Councilman Lawson, I think the motion would, if I understand where you want to go, would be to provide the manager with the direction to draft amendments to our municipal code for that purpose.
What else? Is that it? Okay. So, would anybody agree with just going with that particular motion and letting it ride from there? Any discord with it or whatever?
I want to make sure I'm clear.
Go ahead, Shirley.
So the motion, as I understand it from Mr. Lawson, Armando, would be, his motion is to direct the manager to move forward with looking at amending our codes, our municipal codes, to allow for recreational marijuana in the dispensary, cultivation, sales, all 4 categories, to have the manager, but it is not time certain, correct?
Not time certain at this juncture, no.
That's the second piece. Is that that's what we're looking at? Secondarily?
Trying to establish that we're going to allow recreational marijuana, because if we're not, we might as well stop the conversation at this point. So let's
Move through this,
that's what I wanted. I mean, that's what's on the list here. Do not allow recreational marijuana.
and what's next on the list? All 4 of them, please.
Permit only cultivation, production, and testing of RMEs in Sparks. Allow MMEs to expand into RMEs.
4.
That's it.
So what's wrong with those 4?
I mean, there's other options. There's about 15 options here, so. I'm looking for help. I'll amend my motion to however we got to get down the road with this.
Well, I think the way we can get down the road with it is amend the motion to do what the manager's looking for here. Is that not correct?
I guess just to try to clarify, the item today, I think Councilman Lawson, certainly, the the basic question is, underlying the agenda item is, do we want to go down this path? But we're obviously not asking the city council today to say, you know, the sale of recreational marijuana is legal in Sparks based on any action taken today, but rather to proceed down the path of preparing amendments to our codes to ultimately permit that. And so that decision will ultimately be made, you know, in July or whenever it is that we come back with these amendments, but that would be the action that's,
At your druthers, that's what you'd rather do, is that.
well, that's what it's agendized for. Yeah.
You can change your motion and make it that, and you're all set.
Tell the city manager to give him direction, go forward in accordance with option 4.
Direct the city manager to prepare code amendments to permit all existing MMEs in Sparks to add recreational marijuana operations. This process would also require the preparation of a business impact statement and public comment period.
Any problems there?
That provides me the direction I need. That's what the council's
So
This moves us down the road to saying that we're going to have recreational. Because if we're not, you get my point here,
Yes,
we're not having it, we're wasting staff time.
Get your point. So does that cover what we need to have?
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor? Okay, no.
Go ahead, Ron.
So if we can move forward with this and then come back to us on July 24th, or the second meeting in July, whatever that date is, can these business owners also get a jump on it and do whatever they have to do to put in for their business licenses to affect this on July 24th if we vote for it? Or do we have to wait for them to start that process afterwards? Can't we do it all at once?
Well, certainly, you know, the existing businesses, the existing MMEs, will be looking at the regs that are published by the Department of Taxation on or around May 8th. And they can start to anticipate some of the issues that some of the requirements, if you will, that they may have to comply with in order to go into the recreational market. We won't be doing this in a vacuum. You know, we will, to be frank, as has been stated here today, our RME regs would probably closely mirror our MME regs. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. But, you know, until we know for sure what the state interim regs are, and until, you know, we draft the code amendments and we bring them to the city council, and the city council decides that in fact they're going to adopt this particular set of amendments, you know, they can do a lot to anticipate, but that's, you know, the gun officially goes off at the starting line, if you will, when you approve
Real quick here a minute ago, but now I'm not sure that I.
And that,
Well,
and
another
we're not
quick-
sure at
one
this,
second.
we're not sure, and we're not sure at this point. Are we going to require an administrative review for the new review of the recreational marijuana establishments or not? So that's all to be determined as the staff works through the amendments for Title 20 and Title 5. We're not sure if we're going to require a new administrative review or because they're existing with an existing administrative review. We haven't decided. That would be all stuff that as
So
staff.
again, do we have enclosed with what the direction the city manager would like to go? Do we have enclosed within that motion everything that we need? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So then.
Let me ask a question then.
Wait, I still have one, I want to clarify this. So what is the date in July?
Well, Mr. Smith, this is Steve Smith for the record. What your staff told you is based on things happening as quickly as possible, the soonest we could meet all of the mandated timeframes would be the second meeting in July.
Okay, so let's say.
And
it's-
so the question becomes, will we, with the regs and the things that are there, be capable of getting that done that would be assuming the fastest possible. If the direction that I'm expecting would be to tell me what you want me to do, and I'm assuming that in that is that we would be doing it as quickly as possible, and then getting back to you. So I don't know that it's prudent to have time certain or a date certain because we don't know what's going on. but the idea is to get us back to you as absolutely fast as possible. That is what the council's words are saying right now. So if we were on a date, which I would prefer that a date not be in the motion, the 24th is the second meeting in July. But I think that there's just some discussion points between the industry, between the state and ourselves that will make that date sooner or later. We've heard the industry, we've heard you, and speed is what you're talking about. I mean, just.
You know, I don't care about sooner, basically. It's, if it's second week in July, you post that agenda 10 days before the meeting, or how many days?
Posted, strictly speaking, it's posted 3 full business days prior to the meeting. Our staff reports are submitted about 9 business days before the.
So
Yeah.
okay, so it's pretty close to that. All I'm saying is we should allow them that, after you set the agenda item, you know what it's going to be, that they'd be able to start applying for whatever they need to do so we can expedite whatever we're going to do, whether we vote yes or not. That's all I'm saying.
We can certainly look at what we can do in that regard.
So Armando, you're talking about the May 8th publication of interim state regulations. Well, those could be impacted by legislation that's currently at the Nevada State Legislature on what those look like, correct?
Subsequently, yes. And so, as I mentioned earlier, if for some reason there's something in what the state approves that will apply to what we're doing now, there would be the opportunity before you ultimately approve, based on this calendar, before you ultimately approve the code amendments, to reconsider, what you're doing. That would add delay, but you should know what the state legislature has done before you would be scheduled under this calendar to adopt.
Right, and that is a big concern, and obviously Reno and Washoe County are doing that. If they have not even agendized this, but they're watching legislation, they are watching to see what happens in the legislative arena, so that, which I think is something that would behoove us to look at that, so that we have that same information and don't have to back up, don't have to do things differently. It would give us a better basis. But my question, because Mr. Lawson, your motion in the beginning sounded like what you have presented in our packet under the first question. Does the City Council want to permit the sale, cultivation, production, testing, and distribution of recreational marijuana in Sparks? Was the first question. And then down below, all the different options were the second piece of that. Am I clear on what you were presenting? And Mr. Lawson, were you looking at that first question, or are we moving down to the other options 1 through 6?
I'm looking at that as the question.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Okay.
fair to our business owners that they go out and spend millions of more dollars, and we come back in July and say, sorry, we're not doing recreational. And
So
we wasted
in
staff
the
and their time.
recommendation that the city manager would like, again, I ask, is there enough information to allow us to process this in a timely fashion to resolve everybody's problems?
I believe if you, understanding what Councilman Lawson is looking to do, I think if alternative 4 would provide adequate direction to the city manager.
So does somebody want to make that motion or alternative 4?
Can I ask one more question then? Is there anything preventing this council from voting no in July? So what assurances does that give staff or the business community?
I can't give them any assurance. Again, this
I'm
is.
sorry,
this is a
Armando, I
process.
shouldn't ask that question to
Right,
you
you
like
shouldn't
that. That was not fair on my part. So do you
Can't
understand
give
where?
insurances or guarantee anything right now, I don't think.
Well, we can say, yes, we want recreational, but I'm being told by the city attorney that we can't do that because it's not agendized that way.
Then you can't do it. He said you can't do it, you can't do it, right?
Well, then, I personally am not gonna take a position at all because I don't think it's not fair to the business community. It's not fair to our staff.
So let's try this. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the direction that number 4 applies to here?
I'll make that motion.
Second on that, and let's have discussion real quick. Hopefully it'll be quick, and we can get this done.
I'll make that motion, Gino.
Do you have a second to that motion?
Number 4.
On question 2?
Yeah.
What happened to-
Alternative 4.
city manager to prepare code amendments to permit all existing MMEs in Sparks to add recreational marijuana operations. So I think that right there answers question one. That we're going to allow recreational in here. And the second part is this process would also require the preparation of a business impact statement in the public comment period, which I'm assuming is referring to the calendar of dates.
Correct.
So we have a motion to that, right, Mr.? Yes. Second.
I think that motion, the only thing that motion speaks to is what our staff's going to do, not what we, according to what you just said, and I think it's important, that does not make a decision, and I think it's important that we say that. It did not make a decision, it just says this is what we're encouraging our staff to do, and then we'll make a decision in the future. But I want to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah, well, and I think when you give directions like that, that's.
I'm just according to what's here. So, but he made a motion, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Sorry, you withdrawing your motion? No. So do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second for Mr. Smith. Okay, further discussion. All those in favor, well, we gotta vote now. So please vote. So it passes, if I'm not mistaken, 3-2, is that correct? Yeah, looks like it to me. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on to 9.6. Who's doing that? Hopefully it'll be quicker. Just kidding there, boss. 9.6, presentation, discussion, and possible direction on 2017 Nevada Legislative Session Assembly Bill 039.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Steve Driscoll, City Manager. For the record, in front of you is a process that we don't do on a regular basis during legislative process. You utilize a legislative team to look at the various bills and legislation that come forward and discussion at the legislature. Your legislative team, which you select, is in place for the purposes of being able to react quickly, especially during the escalated timeframes that you're in right now, getting ready for first house. However, there were 3 bills that are kind of huddling and hovering out there that are in the final processes of being heard. They may or may not be exempted, so there's assumption that there'll be action on these 3 bills this week. The legislative team felt, because they were heavily policy-oriented, that they deserve some discussion by the entire council. So what I'm here to do is really just kind of line up the 3 and let you talk amongst yourselves. The 3 bills, the first one is Assembly Bill 39. This is dealing with regional planning. It was a bill put in by Washoe County, and the language primarily was to change the membership to from 4, 3, and 3 to 3, 3, and 3 for Reno, Sparks, Washoe County. And the second part of the language was to change the restrictions by Washoe County on their appointees to allow them to appoint who they would like. We originally were in an opposition to it because it was there's litigation involved, and that this was a change without going through the theoretical operating rules that you have your members to Regional Governing Planning Board to kind of follow. Since that point in time, there had been some discussions on a potential compromise that was brought up by legislators to try to move this bill along. Most recently, Washoe County took official action that they were willing to accept the 4-3-3 membership, but they were also in favor of only going forward with that and supporting it as long as they could pick whoever they wanted as their membership. Regional Governing Planning Board with 3 of your members took an official position to oppose the language as it's proposed in the bill currently, and directed staff to the staffs of the three agencies to see if there was some other working compromise that might be able to come through. There are several things that have been going on behind kind of closed doors, but there's been nothing officially proposed at this point in time. I'd be willing, Mr. Mayor, to defer to the chair of the governing board for any conversation she'd like to engage.
Many of the members of the council are well aware, and certainly Councilman Lawson and Mayor Martini, who sit on regional governing board with me, are aware of the situation we have. With AB 39, the whole council is aware that we had joined the litigation against Washoe County for presenting AB 39 and violating several statutes and policy. In doing so, and that litigation is still pending. We do not have a ruling on the litigation, so that's kind of left us in limbo, but it is at the legislature. It is with Chair Flores of Government Affairs in the Assembly, and we have not had a hearing, but there have been the meeting with the managers on looking at possible compromise. AB 39, as it's proposed, is something the Regional Governing Board voted to officially oppose. I'm recommending that the bill the bill as presented right now in the legislature, changing Reno, Sparks, and Washoe to all have 3 representatives, and the county to pick their own, is what they're submitting, that we oppose that. The long history, which I won't go into, is it was based on population. So Reno has 1 more seat because they have a greater population. The county, the 2 seats with the greatest unincorporated rural land, were given the two representatives, which is just Commission District 4 and 5, to make sure that the rural interests were still protected. So those, we feel on the Regional Governing Board, are still important. Whether a compromise still keeps the 4-3-3 is possibly, is still yet to be determined. There's also a manager's piece that the Assembly Chair and Senator Ratty asked for, that we are working with language on how that looks. We don't, the Governing Board felt that it was, that we would be fine in working in a consulting, but not in any kind of governance or authoritative position of the managers over the Regional Planning Agency Director or over the Regional Governing Board. So that's kind of an update of where we are. I think the feeling of the Governing Board on a whole was that we are willing to look at some kind of compromise. I had even thrown out, and a couple of their members supported, maybe looking at keeping one of the most rural District 5, which has over 3 million acres of land, as that seat. But whether that transpires, I don't know. But today, for the item we have here, my vote and my recommendation is going to be to oppose AB 39 as proposed right now. And we're still working towards some kind of compromise, but we don't know what that is yet, so it's still a work in progress.
Questions? It would be okay to take independent action on each of the 3 bills that we're going to talk about, so.
Council suggestion, and she's leading that to oppose what is stated there and to continue to work forward at finding something that will work for us.
Second, Mr. Smith?
I'll second it with discussion.
Okay, moved by Ms. Bobby, seconded by Mr. Smith. Discussion. Mr. Deere, I'm sorry. Discussion, Mr. Smith.
Are we're opposing the portion where they want to pick their own representatives, is that what the main thing?
And reduce Reno to 3. In the current legislation, it's 3-3-3, and they pick their own. Those are in the current legislation as presented.
And we're opposing the fact we want to keep it 4-3-3? Is that what we want to do?
Well, the motion, the bill as presented makes that change to the 3-3-3.
We're not opposed to that, or
we are opposed to that.
We're opposed to that. So you want to keep it 4-3-3?
Correct.
Okay, and then,
We being who?
Well, the governing board opposed AB 39 officially because in AB 39, it's making a change to 333, and the county's picking their own. So that is strictly the opposition that we have. The bill as it stands right
Okay,
now.
so I guess what I'm getting, maybe I need to explain, we are opposing the 333, and we're opposing them picking their own representatives, or we're not opposed to that?
It's all in the bill, so it's the whole bill.
Oh, I mean, but we're opposing.
Oh,
You're-
oh,
What are you opposing? Which part of the bill? Both those parts? Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Anyone else? Good.
Quick, so what is our plan to come up with are we gonna come up with a solution? Or, how's that, what's the next step on that one?
Do you want me to answer that?
Go ahead. Sure.
There's currently between the regional governing board and the Truckee Meadow Regional Planning Agency Director, working with the 3 city managers, are all in our legislative committee with regional governing, which is David Bobsey and myself and Von Hartung, have all been, and lobbyists that are down in Carson City are working on the bill, tracking it, waiting for a hearing, and waiting to see what happens when it comes to government affairs. What the legislature, we don't know what the legislators are going to do with it when we do have a hearing. So ready for testimony, open to compromise. I think that's the biggest thing for Chair Flores and for Senator Ratty, is that we're open to compromise, whatever, how that looks. But it's not, it hasn't been spelled out and presented to us at this time, but we are open and
I don't think we can ever
gonna track
figure
on it.
out what they're gonna do for sure. I mean, that's never gonna be a given, I don't think, so. So you ready to vote? Please vote.
Public comment?
Where?
You have public comment on this one?
We have public comment on 9.6, not on this particular bill, but I'm not sure that you want to vote before we take our public comment.
This isn't even public. It's general business.
So we're.
It's on another bill.
It's on another bill, but it's on this
So
item.
we're good to go with public comment, is that what you're saying, or yes, no?
I think we should do public comment.
All right, let's go.
For
Anyone, public comment?
for clarification, Mr. Mayor, are you looking for public comment on AB 39 or public comment on 9.6 in total?
Public comment for 9.6. I know we're only discussing, but we proposed a vote for the one section, so I don't know that we want to vote because the item is including of all 3. It's not agendized as 3 different items. Attorney, are we?
Public comment was on 9.6. 9.6 encompasses 3 different bills. So what you're saying is that you should have public comment regardless of what bill that public comment has to do with, as long as you have public comment before the vote.
That's what I was thinking. Is that
It's the mayor's discretion. The mayor can ask what the public comment is on, what particular bill, if, in order to expedite the proceedings, if they're saying public comment on this particular bill, no problem. If there's a public comment on the next particular bill, no problem. If there's public comment on the 3rd bill, no problem. So it's the mayor's call.
the public comments on 434? So if you would rather wait, I'm sorry, Mayor, I just wanted to make sure we didn't violate the rule. So whichever way.
That's fine, yeah, I'm fine with that. Do you have something for?
I was just, so, Mr. Manager, we're asking, we have 3 separate bills, and you've asked us to look at 3 of them separately, so will we be making decisions, 3 separate decisions on?
We could only vote one on the other.
Will we be taking 3 separate votes on the 3 different bills you're presenting to us?
And that was the contemplation of the staff report because of the 3 different and distinct pieces of conversation, and that we left it open for the motions to be related onto your discussion. Your discussion's taken on one at a time, and if it was appropriate to have public hearing one at a time, that is contemplated and that would fulfill the open meeting law.
So, we're making public comment now on 39 or 96? Okay, so that's where we're at. Public comment on 39. Then we're gonna vote on 39, is that not correct? Okay. Any public comment on 039 in the assembly? Okay, please vote. Passes unanimously. Now I'm assuming we are taking up Assembly Bill 193?
Yes, thank you. Again, Steve Driscoll for the record. In discussing Assembly Bill 193, this is a bill that contemplated mandating fluoride be added to the drinking water system. Your staff did take a position of opposition per your legislative platform because at the time when we started the conversation, there was concern that there might be an unfunded mandate to take fluoride out of the water system at the sewer plant. Your staff has been diligent over the last month trying to basically true up the regulations with the science. It also included us working with the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection because they hold the operating license and the permit that tells everyone downstream what we have to do upstream from them. There was no discussion on the medicine related to whether fluoride's good, bad, or indifferent. That's a policy decision up to your discussion. We did get, with reaching out to NDEP, we did get a letter Friday afternoon late. You got a copy in your box, and the clerk also got a copy, that NDEP does not believe that if Tumwa adds sodium fluoride on the drinking water side, that it will put us in violation of our license as far as heavy metals are concerned or total dissolved solids, and it would not violate any of the regulations downstream, predominantly with the Pyramid Lake Tribe. So at this point, from the science side and the operations of your sewer plant, we would not have any fiscal notes based on the letter from NDEP. I will note, however, NDEP does state that they will be watching because it's their duty to do so, and that if at some point down the road it does require us to remove total dissolved solids or fluoride specific, that would be a different conversation. But in today's world, which related to this bill, the objection that we originally had because of an unfunded mandate no longer exists, and therefore the city would not be in a position to be forwarding any fiscal notes in objection of this bill.
So really, this is moved, but we continue staff not to send any.
Kind of twofold. I guess this would be time and place for the medicine conversation, if that was the pleasure of the council, but certainly from an operational standpoint, you could also provide me direction that I'm not to put any fiscal note in at this time since none is warranted.
Well, you know, I don't have a problem if people want to fluoridate their water. I really don't have to. But if it comes to that, I'd like to see them vote on it, just like in the past. And they're trying to raise, and maybe they have already lowered the threshold of populations of 700,000. If it's under 700,000, they have to have a vote. They're trying to lower the threshold to 100,000, so they don't have to vote. And that means they can make the decision instead of sending it to the people, the citizens of Washoe County. Now, that's fine. If they want to vote for fluoridation, I'm all for it. But they have to realize that they're going to have to pay for it because there is a cost for Tumwa to put the fluoride in the water. And the original bill said at every source. That meant the wells and wherever the water's coming from or where it's going in. And I think that's changed, but still there is a tremendous cost. And let them vote on it. If they want it, we'll back it. But right now, I'm thinking if they change that, do you know, Steve, if they've changed the threshold to 700 or 100? That's in the bill, isn't it?
Steve Driscoll, for the record, the bill does contemplate there would be no vote from the citizens of Washoe County related to the future fluoridation of their water, just a mandate of the water company to put it in.
Be a mandate of the water company, be a mandate of the legislature.
Well, the legislature would be mandating
that we do it. So
put it in.
So in that case, I'm opposed to this. That's my own opinion, but let them vote on it. It's been voted down twice already, so the people obviously don't want it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
I'd take a motion to oppose it as well for the same reasons. That I think when people have voted on it, and then I think they voted on it twice, you said, right? And then all of a sudden it's just decided on that, just in principle alone, that doesn't work. So I'd make a motion that we oppose.
No second?
Second.
for discussion. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Smith. Now we have discussion. It's by
Steve, I'd like to ask too, on the in-depth letter that came in, they were saying that, at first they're saying that there was not a fiscal impact or treatment, that currently the way the numbers are running, that we would not need treatment. However, in that end of the first paragraph, they say, understand that we cannot guarantee additional treatment will not be needed. So in a drought year, or other factors happening at some point in time, is there a possibility that there would be treatment needed, and we're looking at the cost to that because of the Truckee and because of the quality of the water? Is there
As you
is
get-
that a possibility?
Thank you. Steve Driscoll, for the record, on the last half of the second page, there is conversation that if regulations changed, that they would work with us to make sure that we go. You're talking about anywhere from $100 million to $400 million to put in reverse osmosis to do some of the water or all the water, depending on regs. And so what NDP's done under their current management, this letter is there to let us know that with the current situation as the bill's written, that there wouldn't be a need for us to do any kind of removal at this time. However, as a state agency that's responsible, they are within their full rights to put us on notice that if things change, then it may be a different conversation. But as you have it on the second page, they would be working with us, and they understand the intensity and the enormousness of the money that it would take and the amount of time that it would take to get it going. So while this isn't a forever, it is a for right now. You wouldn't have to do anything about it for this specific purpose. And that if things change, then they would work with the agencies and the state would work within the rules.
And I have an issue with that because those are taxpayer dollars. You know, if they come from the state or wherever they come from, those are enormous potential. And again, I would agree with both of my fellow councilmen on the citizens have a right to voice their preference for fluoride or not. So I cannot support this current bill.
So we have a motion on the floor, do we not? Any other questions? Okay, please vote.
So is the motion?
This is on 193,
The motion
right?
is
that
to
correct?
oppose. To oppose, okay.
Passes unanimously. Now we
So,
move on to.
Mr. Mayor, just to recap, so that since there was some conversation, the motion was to oppose the bill as written based on the lack of a vote by the people. And so that will be the testimony that your team will present on this bill if there's a chance for us to testify again in this House. If not, we'll do it in the second House.
So now we move on to Senate Bill 434, charter change.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Steve Driscoll, City Manager, for the record. Senate Bill 434 was initiated by Senate Government Affairs Committee, and what it proposes to do is to change the two elected city attorney positions in the incorporated cities, being Reno and Sparks, and to go from voted to an appointed position. Testimony was heard last week. Your city attorney did testify, and there were various discussions that are on the record. And so I just leave this to the council for their discussion.
Questions, Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, there's an old saying, don't ask the legislature for what you want because you may not get it. You may get something completely different. In this case, this just falls back on what we do. And by that, I mean, we didn't ask them for this. This came from, and I respect Senator Radding, worked with her for 8 years. I respect her greatly, but this is the legislator getting the legislation, you know what I'm trying to say, getting into Sparks' business. It should go through the charter committee at our direction. And, you know, and I'm going to use our city attorney here. I think he's been elected 6 times already. Is that about right? And last time he ran unopposed. So the people must like what he's doing. So why would we want to change that? and jeopardize the vote of the people or take it away from them so they cannot pick who they want. So I would oppose this also.
Ms. Bybee?
I have heard from several constituents, including Judy Moss, who the mayor actually has a statement from, who is my appointee to the Charter Committee. And we have a process in place. The Charter Committee presents with public comment and open meetings changes that we want to see to our city charter, which is our governing document. They take that down to the state legislature. And that's the process in place for a reason, that I think this violates that process, and it also violates the fact, the voters' rights, because they voted twice to keep this. So on both of those reasons, I feel very strongly to oppose this and to keep it as our voters have asked, and the system that our charter committee is set up for. And if the change wants to happen, it needs to go through the charter committee process, if that's the direction of the city or of the committee itself. So I do oppose this bill also.
I oppose it as well, and I think the comment that was made to me by someone that's on the opposing side of this said, well, if you let the charter committee do this, it'll never happen. Well, I'm saying, well, that's just the way the process is. I'm sorry. It's just the way it works to get new people to vote then. So, Mr. Adams.
I just want to point out, only follow up on Councilwoman Bybee's point that not only the voters have voted essentially this bill down twice. The Charter Committee did in fact vote it down in 2006. The Nevada Assembly voted it down in 2007. So it's following up on Councilwoman Bybee's and Councilman Smith's comments. Not only do the voters not want it, our Charter Committee doesn't want it. The Nevada legislature, at least the assembly, doesn't want it. So this, again, it's a unilateral amendment to our charter, depriving our citizens of their right to vote for their elected representative in the city's executive branch of government with no input whatsoever from it.
No one wanting this is causing a lot of us not to want it, right? I don't understand that position, but Mr. Lawson, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this puts us in a bad position. We can't win as a city council on this. We vote for it, we piss off the attorney, we vote against it, we upset the senator. So I don't see where the win-win is in this at all. I'm going to abstain from the vote because I don't think there's a way to win this argument one way or the other.
And I guess to that point, there's, how do I put this? It doesn't matter, I guess, if there's a way to win it or not. I mean, you have to vote on something if it's there and you're being asked to vote on it, whether you think you can win or lose or whatever. It doesn't really enter into it. It's, you cast your vote. You cast your vote, everybody casts their vote, we add them up, which way did it go? So. Okay, any other, comment? I'm sorry. First of all, Judy Moss opposes this, being done, and Ardina, you oppose this, is that correct? Yes. Sure, come on up.
First, Mr. Driscoll and I served many hours together in the Sparks Citizen Advisory Committee, so he's probably already familiar with this, whether you are or not. But I have over 30 years of working with the city of Sparks, acquired over 1,700 people in my database. I normally, when I send out emails to the people in my group, get about 800 responses. Now, Steve thought that was a lot. Adam did too. I sent out 1,400 emails on this. I got back 1,100 responses. So that was just very impressive to me. The other thing that was different in this, which I think kind of shows us old farts are alive and well, normally about 75% of the responses I get are from Northeast Sparks. This time, 85% of the responses I got were from people in wards 1 and 2. And the responses overwhelming that we want to keep our right to have an elected city. I mean, they just kind of see this as a camel's nose under the tent from the state. And I'm so relieved to see the thought that you guys are putting into this, because the right to vote is a valuable right. I don't care what we're voting for. It's our right to vote. I mean, I used to grow dope. Today I oppose dope. People change, I mean, I was the only person running a pot farm who was training dogs for the military to catch pot. So I'm an oxymoron on 2 feet up here. But this right to vote thing, it's a right to vote. And I've never had 1,100 people out of 1,400. And I sent them all the video, the same video you got. And this thing was brought up by Tick from the Judiciary Committee, who asked the Government Affairs to bring it up. We had one, you all saw the video. If you don't, go home and watch it. One person from Vegas thought this was a good idea. And when they asked why, he goes, well, I just don't like elections. That's not who we want making our decisions. But an example would be using the county commission quickly. It's a bad example. I love Paul Liparelli. And to see Paul Liparelli sitting behind his podium and having the commissioner scream at him, your job, Mr. Liparelli, is to give us a workaround. That's wrong. That is not the job. And there's a reason.
Thanks, Ardina. Okay, any other questions? Mr. Good.
Really quickly, I just wanted to clarify the record of what the last person talked about. So on the record, it was brought up that it was Mr. Segerblum who brought this forward, and it wasn't any of the other senators. So I just wanted to make sure you understood the reference that was from the last speaker.
Okay. Just thought I'd put that out there. Okay. So do we have any more questions? Any more thoughts? Okay. Oh, I don't want to look at that. Mr. Dare.
I would also, because of our voters, stand with everybody, and I would, because of that, I will make a motion that we also oppose this and stand with our voters. And if there's ever a change, it needs to come from our voters.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deere, seconded by Mr. Smith to decline number 9.6. Any further discussion, or that would be Senate Bill number 434, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing none, please vote. Okay, it passes 4-1 with one abstention. Okay, let's move on to public hearings. Public hearing, consideration and possible approval of a request from Copper Canyon Partners, LLC, to the City of Sparks for the abandonment of Solomon Court Public Right-of-Way, AB 144.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members, John Erickson, City Engineer, for the record. Where this abandonment is located is Solomon Court. It is to the east of Vista Boulevard and to the south of Solomon Circle. What this abandonment will do is pave way for a hotel that is slated for the parcel just to the south of the end of the cul-de-sac. We've got a 124-room hotel coming in, and so this would be abandoned and
Where's it going again, John? I'm sorry.
The hotel would be on the parcel
Okay.
that's adjacent to the freeway off-ramp.
Thank you.
And so you follow the outline in NRS 278-48-0. We made notifications to the adjacent property owners. If there's one property owner, it is Copper Canyon Partners LLC. You've noticed that this staff does not see any material injury to the proposed abandonment and recommends approval. That concludes my presentation.
Questions for Mr. Erickson? You see that this is a public hearing, so anyone from the public like to speak to this particular item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close it and bring it back to council for action. Mr. Smith?
You know, this solved all of our issues with the traffic on this piece of property.
Wood Springs is the hotel owner, and they've reassured us that they have not becoming or utilizing any access off of this.
So this is my ward also, so I will move to approve the public right-of-way abandonment request as outlined by staff.
Do we have a second? Mr. Dare?
I second that.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve 10.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Good job, John. Okay, moving right along, planning and zoning. Comments from the public? Do we have any comments from the public? See you, comments from the city council and city manager, Mr. Smith? Nothing? You got nothing?
No.
Mr. Driscoll?
I have two things. First, I have an announcement. The following committee appointments are available. Civil Service Commission, 2 members for 3-year terms. Parks and Recreation Department, 3 members for a 3-year term, and that should be the Parks and Rec Commission, not department, sorry. The Reno Tahoe Airport Authority Board of Trustees, 1 member for 4 years. In this one, clarification, the second member of the RTAA, you approved a new one tonight. The current member will term out at the end of June, so this will be for replacing that position. Persons interested in serving on these committees should complete a community service application available from the city clerk's office. You may also apply online at the city's website, www.cityofsparks.us. Click on Government on the webpage, then under Boards and Commissions, click Volunteering for Sparks Board of Commission, and then fill out the online application and submit. Applications will be accepted until the close of business on Wednesday, May 31st at 5 p.m. for these 3 boards. And then also, Mr. Mayor, if I could, a member of the public asked me to make sure that I let the council know that today is Councilwoman Bybee's birthday, even though she doesn't want you to know. So I'm doing my duty from a citizen. I didn't give him up.
Do we have any other comments?
I've got one.
Go ahead.
And you were just on the honor flight this weekend, sir? Yes? Would you, I don't know where you got those jackets, but they're the best
They're
looking
the
jackets
best
I've
looking
ever.
jackets.
Stand up and show everybody and, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Huh?
They were both on honor flight. Jan was the only
Jan was
female.
too.
Jan,
She's
you
the
were on there
only
too, good.
Marine.
Thank you for your service.
Mayor.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And we got to do a happy birthday, do we not? You got something?
Can I have one? I just want to ask if I could give direction to our staff. A question on, I was talking to Edon the other day regarding some of the entrepreneurial stuff they do, and it looks like legislation has some grants actually for this. If we, I don't know what they're going to do if we're going to pass, but I'd be very interested to know, and then how does that affect us as a city, if at all? Or is it something we can just go after? Is this, I mean, something we can talk about another time. I just am looking for direction.
We'll take a look into that. Most of the grant opportunities that come from state monies go through EDON, because EDON is our representative as the Economic Development Agency. So I would need to talk, and I can bring that up at an executive board meeting and find out how they're planning on doing this on the backside. Right now, they have various angels that are out there that are accumulating some of these monies and going forward. So I'll get back to you on that.
That's all, thank you.
Anyone else, comments? Seeing no further business, we are adjourned.
Happy birthday, we gotta sing happy birthday.